Welcome back, family. I'm Smiley, and buckle up because you know it's going to be a chaotic day when Samantha Markle wakes up angry at the air again. And today, oh, she is fuming. She's pacing like someone stepped on her shadow. Why? Because Meghan Sussex, who lives rent-free in that woman's mind, managed to get a private letter to her father. A simple letter, a normal, adult human act. And somehow that triggered an emotional earthquake inside the Markle circus tent. Let's set the stage properly. Meghan does something thoughtful and quiet. No cameras, no headlines, no tabloid leaks. Just a letter. And immediately, Scammy decides this is her cue to burst out of the bushes like, aha, drama! Girl, please. Meghan writes a letter and you act like she just launched a military operation. Here's the thing that really exposes the absurdity. The only people turning this into a public spectacle are the people who have been cashing in on Meghan's name for years. Thomas, surrounded by folks who are way too cozy with the tabloids. But Scammy wants you to believe Meghan is masterminding chaos from her kitchen table in Montecito, cackling like a Disney villain. No, sweetheart. The only villain energy here is coming from the person doing interviews every 17 minutes. Let's talk about the projection, because Scammy is practically a walking projector. She refuses to acknowledge the actual issue, that her father is literally in close contact with someone who has every incentive to leak and twist the story. Instead, she flips everything and says Meghan is manipulating something. How? With a letter? A piece of paper is somehow the most dangerous weapon in the Markle household now? Imagine the mental gymnastics required to skip past the grown man sitting with a tabloid buddy and go straight to blaming Meghan. But this is how Scammy operates. She never addresses the reality. She creates a version that fits her agenda. And her agenda is painfully simple. Keep attacking Meghan because it's the only thing that ever gets her attention. If she had a hobby, crochet, gardening, collecting decorative spoons, Meghan would be free by now. Instead, Scammy's full-time job is outrage. She has a PhD in public tantrums. Meanwhile, Meghan is over in California minding her business, raising her children, working on her projects, and sipping her tea without worrying about what nonsense Scammy is ranting about this week. If anything, Meghan probably forgot these people exist until her letter made them spin out. What makes today's meltdown especially ridiculous is how loudly Scammy tries to rewrite the situation. She wants people to believe that Meghan reaching out privately is some kind of manipulation tactic. Manipulation? Samantha, if Meghan wanted manipulation, she would have done what you do. Call the press, sell your opinions, invent stories, and pretend every camera light is your son. The math ain't mathing. The desperation oozing from every word is honestly something science should study. You can hear the panic. You can feel the fear that Meghan's actions look reasonable, kind even. Because if Meghan looks reasonable, then suddenly Scammy looks like, well, the problem. And we can't have that, right? Not in Scammy world where facts are optional and self-awareness is extinct. Let's talk about the reality Scammy will never face. Meghan owes none of these people anything. Not public explanations, not media statements, not cooperation with their circus. Nothing. And yet, when Meghan chooses to take the high road and send a private letter, Scammy acts like she's under attack. The hypocrisy could power an entire electric grid. What really cracks me up is how Scammy speaks as if she has insider knowledge. Ma'am, you don't even have insider access to your own father's emotions, let alone Meghan's life. You're watching everything from the outside, like a fan who wasn't invited to the concert but is screaming outside the venue anyway. And let's be real, Scammy didn't expect Meghan to reach out. This move ruins her narrative. For years she's yelled, "Meghan abandoned him, Meghan doesn't care." But now, boom, letter delivered. Quietly, respectfully, like an adult. And suddenly, Scammy has to scramble and twist the story because she's out of talking points. You can almost hear the gears in her head screeching as she tries to figure out how to spin Meghan doing something kind into something nefarious. What's really embarrassing is how transparent her desperation is. She isn't upset because the letter was wrong. She's upset because it didn't go through her. She wants to be the filter, the gatekeeper, the spokesperson, the center of attention. And Meghan bypassing her completely? Oh, that cuts deep. That's the real reason she's in meltdown mode. Let's not forget, this is the same woman who has made a mini career out of talking about Meghan's life. This letter ruins her storyline. Suddenly, Meghan isn't cold or distant. She's thoughtful. She's compassionate. She's maintaining boundaries but still reaching out. That undercuts her whole brand. And speaking of boundaries, Scammy would not recognize a boundary if it walked up and offered to shake her hand. Meghan has been firm and consistent in creating space from toxic people, and that's what drives Scammy wild. Meghan's refusal to engage publicly is the ultimate rejection. It forces Scammy to realize she's not part of Meghan's world and never will be. That's the wound she keeps poking. The funniest part of the whole saga? Scammy trying to paint Meghan's actions as attention-seeking while she is shouting from rooftops, begging for interviews, and rushing to social media every time Meghan takes a breath. If Meghan were actually attention-seeking, Scammy would be unemployed. This entire fiasco makes one thing painfully clear. Scammy cannot survive without spinning Meghan into the villain. But she's losing control of the narrative. The more Meghan acts with quiet maturity, the more Scammy looks like someone fighting her own shadow. And let's talk about the tabloid friend, the one in Thomas's orbit. Scammy pretends this guy is invisible. She refuses to acknowledge the very loud, very obvious reason private communication becomes impossible. And instead of addressing that issue, she decides to blame Meghan for the fallout of other people's boundary violations. The lack of accountability is so complete, it almost deserves an award. But here's the truth that Scammy will never admit. Meghan's letter is a power move, not a flashy, dramatic one, a subtle, elegant one, the kind of power move that leaves the other side scrambling. Meghan controlled the narrative without speaking publicly. She made a human gesture without feeding the trolls. She stepped into the situation without stepping into the drama. And Scammy can't handle it. So, what does she do? She rants, she screams, she invents scenarios, she tries to poke holes in something she doesn't even have access to. She spins the story so hard she probably gets dizzy. Because if she stops for even 1 second, she might have to confront the truth that Meghan is not the villain in her story. Meghan is the person she envies. And envy, when mixed with entitlement, becomes the hot mess we're seeing now. The more Scammy spirals, the calmer Meghan looks, and that contrast exposes everything. Meghan doesn't need to throw anyone under the bus. She doesn't need to clap back. She doesn't need to issue statements. Her actions speak clearly. Scammy, meanwhile, needs a megaphone and a spotlight just to feel relevant. And that difference, that's the real story here. So, if Scammy wants to keep melting down every time Meghan does something normal, let her. If she wants to twist every gesture into a crisis, let her. Because at the end of the day, Meghan is still Meghan. Graceful, collected, private. And Scammy is still screaming on the sidelines like the world's least wanted narrator. And honestly, the more she screams, the more obvious it becomes. The only person desperate for attention here is her. Meghan is just living her life, and somehow that alone drives Scammy completely over the edge.